You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the meta. The meta controls everything. The meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching The Meta Show.
And we're
We
live.
are here.
Yes.
We are indeed.
And all the audio should be working.
Matani on the Meta Show with the red shirt. That's and Boat as well. I think we're actually matching.
I'm
today,
in a
look
red
at
and
us.
black striped shirt so it can fuck with the camera. If I move around, it kind of waves and.
Yeah, it's sort of like it's got an interesting sort of effect on it. That's awesome. Also, just in time for the start, we got Darth Kill resubbing for 11 months. He says aloha. So welcome everybody. I'm glad to be back. I was in Chicago last week, as you guys know. So I was just a voice on the internet rather than being able to compare fashion.
You were a lost one on the internet too. You're like, oh my god, what are we talking about? Oh god, help, help, help! Oh wait,
I can't really do this at all unless Boat gives me the menu of discussions for the show. It is the reality. And we've got K Color with us as well. Already people are like, wow, K Color's coming back to the game. K Color has been back. K Color, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm K Color.
So what do you do? What makes you famous?
A wordy one.
What makes me famous? I don't even know, man.
So I have to do it for you? Is that what happens?
I lead things, and things happen, and it goes well, so I keep getting promoted.
That is the curse of being effective. And as Arinda says, let the puns begin. Wow, we're getting a stream of resubs here real fast. We've got what do we got? Alora Egilson for 12 months. We got Miza Evil for 30 months. Goddamn. Arain Rod Megan for 10. But the Matani with the wizard hat at fan. But the Matani with the wizard hat at FanFest.
It would be hilarious if you wore that, by the way.
Best fucking no, it wouldn't be hilarious. Pity and inappropriate. It's funny if other people do it, but it's not funny if I do it.
Yeah, get like all the other goons to wear a wizard hat at Vegas.
Yeah.
The keynote. Oh my goodness. Yeah, we also have Gamma Light 999 with a brand new Twitch Prime subscriber. Yay! So since K Color is going to be Mr. Modest here, K Color back in the day was the second in charge of Bomberwolf. He was the guy that took over after Mr. V stepped down and made Bomberwolf kind of a nutty organization. And then he went on to do Super Capitals, most famously. Lost a whole bunch of wyverns doing something comical. I don't know if that was his fault, though. I think that was Laz. To Don't Shoot PL guys. They're here to help. When we drop back Black Legion.
Was he and Darius?
Yeah, it was.
I don't know. I don't think that was me.
Well,
I don't think you're.
I think it was K Color and Laz. Like K Color was running the fleet, and Laz was like, "Don't shoot PL."
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah.
Oh,
anyway, right. And then he's one of our master strategists. He kind of burned out on the game a while back, but he is definitely back. We bribed him in Mexico with hookers and blow, and convinced him to come back to the game.
Wow. K Color used to be one of our Sky Marshals for a very long time. And, is back involved in Court for the Imperium, so that's pretty cool. We got Herfy for 18 months, CO2, more like CO2, am I right? And Proigol, if you can say that correctly, for 3 months as Twitch Prime. Awesome. So yeah, no, it's been an interesting couple of weeks. I mean, really, like we're in this sort of pre-Vegas, post-CO2 disband place right now.
Yeah, it's like a news vacuum. I had to like gobble up news out of thin air. Every week, of course, I just quickly go through like 50 pages of Reddit for the last 7 days to find news, and everything was at 0 upvotes. Usually you have like major pieces that'll be like, oh wow, this is big news, and there really just wasn't. Even the fights, nobody talked about.
If only there was like a website you could go to that has like articles and news about.
Yeah, I even went there, but I mean, it was just, there wasn't a lot of big, oh my god, look at what happened. I mean, other than what just happened recently with PC Gamer. But that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about eVegas. It's coming. The official schedule is announced. Of course, that is always.
Do we have a new video? I was talking to one of our guys in the video team that we're going to have a new video for Top Story once we get to that.
No.
Okay,
they didn't give it to me yet.
They're working on it, so maybe next week. So what are we going to be talking about today? We've got EVE Vegas, which will be our top story. We have a few minor EVE Online war-related things, but things are sort of at a dull roar currently. The new PC Gamer article that came out about CO2. We also had Acades got blown up by rats and reimbursed. See, I found out about that because there's this Imperium News place that you can
I know, I saw that too, but I didn't know if I wanted to talk about something getting reimbursed, because like, I was going to celebrate that it died and be like, ha, look how bad they are in Alliance Tournament things when they bring it into real server, and then it's like, oh, it got reimbursed.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
But that happened. But yeah, so the top story today is going to be Vegas, and we can have Manic Scar 1 just subbed with Twitch Prime, and Wrathcan as well. So I think with that, let's do the top story.
Yeah, so right before we jump into the top story, since I didn't include this in my notes because it got reimbursed, the wonderful ship called the Acades, it's the brand new Alliance Tournament ship, not the one from this Alliance Tournament, but the one previously, was being flown by one of the guys who has a ton of kill marks on the thing. I mean, he has a shitload, 169. He went and shot like a certain rat. The problem is that the ID was bugged and didn't actually show up. And so he didn't no idea it was there. And all of a sudden, it decloaked his really expensive ship and then blew it up.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, actually. We got an interview with a pilot, which is sort of like the Bill or Te Evil One, I guess is the way you say it, in sort of an elite speak way. So that article that I linked is our interview with him, and it is curious to see that happen. Blood Raiders, Covops, yikes.
Yeah, it's happened once before, where like a CCP special edition type thing called the Cockroach wasn't supposed to like be a thing, and then it like appeared as a thing and got blown up, and like all of EVE was like, holy shit.
There was a GM ship, right?
Right,
exactly.
Right. And so things like this happen from time to time, and usually when it happens in this case, CCP tends to quickly reimburse it because it's like, oops, we didn't even know that was possible.
Yep, big hair in your favor. So let's top story, of course, we've got Vegas. I mean, 2 weeks. That's going to be a thing. The tickets are sold out. There is a wait list, and one of the things that's interesting about this is, you know, eVegas, this looks like it's going to be the biggest one yet, at least according to the ticket sales. But there is a wait list, and what's curious about that is I heard today that a number of people had purchased tickets for eVegas, multiple purchases, just to get the Concorde battleship.
Yeah, so this happened a
couple
months back.
It wasn't even like people who were necessarily going to that. So there is a waiting list, and if you're interested in going, you can also go to Vegas without needing a ticket.
Yeah, so this is actually kind of big news because it was seen as a way to quote-unquote RMT. What happened was people, I mean, it's a pretty expensive RMT gambit. I don't know what the fuck they were thinking. But the way CCP made it out is that these Concorde ships were going to be for attendees only. For FanFest, for Vegas, and like I think one other event, so you could have a chance to get all three ships. Or I think as if you went to both, you got all three, one of each, you get one. And what they did is when CCP originally announced it, they were like, okay, here's how this is going to work. You can get the ship, and then for every character that bought a ticket, get the ship again. And since it was going to be so rare, people, did the whole, well, this thing's going to be worth hundreds of billions. So they started buying tickets with no intention of going. This happened at FanFest, so it made FanFest look like it was going to be bigger than it was, and it happened here at Vegas also. So that's an issue. Then CCP came out and goes, oh, by the way, we're just going to give this to everyone eventually anyways, so it's not that special. And people went, oh, fuck.
Yeah, it's gonna be kind of curious to see what happens. So as Dirk points out, there's always people who will back out towards the end as RL catches up. So there is a wait list, but a lot of the people, the Imperium already looks to have north of 100 people going this year.
Yeah.
And, only some of us actually have bought Vegas tickets.
I can tell you from experience, and you didn't hear this. This is a Imperium News Meta Show special announcement. If you are going and you don't have a ticket, don't worry. You can probably get in anyways. Just saying, there's people out there that have done it.
We don't. I mean, basically, what I've seen at the past was it's not like there was, you can probably just go to places, and it's a new venue this time.
Well,
around.
yeah. They even said, like, we're gonna get to that in just a moment, about the things to watch. So to kind of go into this real quick, this is a great segue piece about people who don't have a ticket that are just going to enjoy Vegas. There's been several goons in the past who don't buy the ticket. They just enjoy Vegas. They just have fun. They just party in Vegas, and they come see goons in between. Most famously, I think last year was Casimir was there, but the only time I saw him, maybe it was Casimir, was like at a few dinners. Like otherwise, him and his wife were just enjoying Vegas. You know, they didn't really go to the Eve things. And so that was pretty cool.
Well, the challenge with the Eve things, of course, is that they're between like 10 a.m. and like 4 or 5 p.m.
Right.
And so a lot of times people are only just getting out of bed from the previous night's partying, just in time for the events. But you know, it's going to be interesting. All the big announcements are now front-loaded, like with Vegas, to the Eve keynote, which is on Friday. So most of the event is on Saturday and Sunday. There's just like a registration, opening ceremony, and a couple keynotes on Friday. And if there are going to be any announcements from CCP that are going to affect the game in a substantial way, we can expect those at the keynote on October 6th.
Yeah, so October 6th, 2200 Eve, for those that want to like write this down. It's in the link that we provided from CCP Official, but this could change. The EVE Online keynote, so that's 2200 Eve. The reason it's so early in Vegas is because they're trying to make it as early as possible in Iceland, because 2200 is still pretty late. So that'll be like in the middle of the afternoon. That's the first thing. That's the only thing to really watch for on October 6th. The 7th, they're going to have the Shipyards future of PvE. Things like the Blood Raiders TO and all the other future ones. That's at 1800 Eve. And then the Upwell structures are going to be finalized and talked about. Any kind of news with that will be at 2100 Eve on the 7th. So those are all the big dev keynotes or discussion points. There, of course, will be other little things, minor things there and there.
There's a lot of roundtables I saw mostly. It's like, it's a roundtable, so you can like talk to Fozzie and hope.
And they announced that every major thing that's going on will be streamed. And because of the sheer size of the venue and how many people they're expecting, they will be streaming it at the venue at another location. So like where they have all like the Eve swag and all that kind of stuff, there'll be like a second room where you can watch it if you cannot get in. If you do like to go to the keynote and you are going to Vegas, I recommend getting there a few minutes early, because you won't find a seat if you really are interested to watch it that way. Otherwise, just get with goons and watch it somewhere else, because that's always more fun. And they also announced, this isn't, of course, the schedule for this hasn't been posted yet. You're going to have to watch Eve Twitch channel. Twitch channel is twitch.tv/CCP. They are going to live stream 90% of it, they said, or maybe more, but they haven't finalized what they're going to be streaming, so what things they'll be talking about. So that'll be coming with that. And then the one I want to talk about with you, and last year it was hilarious. Last year, when they did their quote-unquote pub crawl, it literally was, let's go play... Let's go pinballing. And I knew at least 10 different people that bought that ticket and didn't go. Like, it just, money vanished. They're like, yeah, who cares? Fuck that. That's fucking stupid. We went to Fremont Street. But this year, they're doing something exponentially more dangerous. So it's called the Pub Night High Roller Experience. They're going to start by getting you drunk. Then they're going to take a whole bunch of fat nerds to the top of a building, stick them on a roller coaster.
It's a Ferris wheel, not a roller coaster.
Oh, okay, the Ferris wheel. Okay. Oh, I thought this was the roller coaster. They made it out like it was the high one.
No.
Okay, well...
Anyway,
they're going to go way up in the air. Goons, people that are drunk are going to go up on this damn thing. Then you get to watch everyone blow chunks, and then they're going to, do that. And apparently it's
Friday, the Imperium is going to Fremont Street, as usual. So I have no idea. I know that the high roller experience begins very early, that they are going to like a barbecue joint, and presumably there will be beer. And I don't know anybody who did the pinball thing last year, and I don't know. I'm sure that we will. Yeah. I'm sure that everybody who goes to the high roller experience will have a fantastic time, and the Imperium will be able to hear about it later.
The pub crawl, for those that have never done it, even if you're not a member of the Imperium, I recommend going on this pub crawl, because I don't remember much of it. I just know that there's this one fabulous place that sells 20-ounce alcohol mixed drink that is extremely alcoholic, but fruity enough that you can't taste it. and it's like $20. And the thing
it's
is
probably like well, I'm not sure there was. Oh, that's like one of the margarita joints. It's not. It's not the place outside of the D because we usually start outside the bar outside of the D. Oh yeah,
it is the D. Yeah.
It is this massive Long Island iced tea.
Oh yeah, it's huge, and I had like 3 of them. They call it. I think it was called the Sky or something, and it's blue and it's alcoholic. And from there, I mean, they tell you how awesome last year's was. We made the front page of Imager. Like, we were like #1 image.
Oh, that's right, with that picture
because
of like, we gave Bill with a banner with a stripper.
We gave 2 street strippers our Imperium flag.
And like Bill is posing. Yeah, don't die there. But yeah, I got a question here. From Donar. Will somebody make a list of places and times the Imperium will be hanging out for different events? Yes, we are actually. We're concerned about making sure that everybody is together and has a plan this year because from our perspective, the event has now scaled to be so large. And this is just for the Imperium that we're going to be creating an agenda ahead of time and distributing that. So if you're in the Imperium, you're going to be going to Vegas, make damn sure that you're on Telegram. We'll be posting the agenda a few days before the event on the Goonfleet.com mega thread where already like more than 90 people have signed up for these events. There's a Thursday event, there's a Friday event. We're gonna have to see what happens with Saturday because that's like there's this weird split this year. So in the past, people would go to Vegas and skip the Friday thing and go to Fremont Street instead. But we would usually go to the CCP party on Saturday as a group. This year, it's like a half and half split of a lot of people who were like, screw this, we're not going to the CCP party. So the Imperium, we sort of need to plant a flag at a bar for half of our people and then link everybody else back up. The CCP party is only between like 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. on a Saturday.
It's 3 hours. And the only good thing about it, again, if you already have the ticket and you're going, from experience, the good thing about it is you can get unlimited free drinks. So you can use it as a way to get really plastered before you spend the rest of your Saturday night. So that's my experience.
It can be fun. I mean, I don't want to shit on the Saturday night thing because it's certainly the Saturday night thing is interesting, if only to watch the way that the puppies react to things. Right. Like watching them go ape shit when Permaban comes on is sort of an eye-opening experience.
Or watching them try to dance. It's like really.
We'll have to see. Weird. Yeah. Well, I'm not exactly the best dancer in the world myself. So
yes, but I get to see. But like, your fun triangle is hilarious to watch. Yeah, watching them dance is kind of cringy.
But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I mean, Dry is a new venue. The Link is a new venue. Yeah. All these places are new. So, K-Color, are you gonna join us in Vegas? Or are you?
I'm actually still sick from Cancun.
Wow.
Yeah, he just. What was it? You discovered you have a crab allergy and might have died after eating all that.
What?
Crab. Yep.
Are you serious, K-Color? What happened?
I don't think it was the gluten. Apparently, my family has a history of crab allergy. And Wild gave me a bunch of king crab that I ate.
Wait, it sounded like you're about to say the Wild gave me the crab.
Well, Wild gave him crabs, which is basically
even better.
Similar. Boat might literally die here on live stream.
Yeah, sorry.
Make sure that he doesn't choke to death.
But yeah, no. Yeah, about that. So why aren't you going to Vegas?
Yeah. I don't know. I still might. I mean, I'm looking into it.
I told him to talk to Sadis.
I think that there's like a lot of like last minute people sort of jumping in once they've realized what a big deal it's going to be. But also one event that was tacked on at the end is Blade Runner 2049 charity screening, which I think sounds pretty cool. I haven't bought tickets myself, but I am interested in seeing the new Blade Runner. So we'll see.
News about that. They are out of the VIP tickets, but they still have tickets available for the event, so you can still go.
How much is that?
I think it was like 19 to 100, and there's like a range. There's a link for that. Let me get you that link. 1 second. They had a good link for it. So for those that don't know about this will be at 2200 between 1930 and 2200 local time in Vegas. The movie Blade Runner 2049 is coming out soon, and Vegas is doing a very special premiere. The money from that, $20 tickets are still available. So
it's Sunday night,
so you have to be like wanting to stay for the little extra thing. Their goal here is to raise money. That money is going to Able Gamers charity, which I believe is the same thing that Gamma Nox is a part of, with accessible gamers, that kind of thing. And they're looking to raise about $5,000 for that. So it's a pretty cool deal. It will go to charity, all the money raised. So
that's cool. I mean, the fact that there is a reasonable price. I mean, the sad thing is that in this day and age, spending $20 for a movie ticket is not really that much different
it's not
just
that bad.
buying a normal movie ticket. So
yeah, actually, that's pretty cheap considering what they're doing. Like, this fact it's a special event and everything. That's pretty cool. Because I know here, awesome. the really nice tickets, you get like a big-ass Lazy Boy chair. It's like $20 anyways. So, yeah, so that's pretty cool. They're going to be doing that Sunday night. So that's the things to look forward to with EVE Vegas. Yeah, I even heard you say earlier that you planned possibly an alliance mail because the sheer numbers of people going, you might have to just
I mean, one of the challenges
out there.
Yeah, I mean, one of the challenges is that, like, last year we had an entire corporation who had recently joined Goonswarm that wasn't, like, connected properly on Telegram. So they were, like, an entire group of guys, and they were sort of around, but they didn't know how to integrate in the alliance. And so we're like, yo, guys, like, get on Telegram, look at the thread. So now, just to make sure that we don't have any, like, lost little lambs wandering around, we want to make sure, like, post an agenda, have the agenda in the thread. On the Thursday night event, we'll probably hand out hard copies of this. So it's like, here is how you install Telegram, motherfucker.
Yeah.
And then a worst case scenario is to send an actual, God forbid, alliance mail, which we almost never do in Goonswarm. Just before the event.
And on top of that, you personally sending an alliance mail, which I don't think I've seen you do in like 10 years. So,
well, if anybody's going to be sending an alliance mail, it should either be me or Merkelchen. Right. So, yeah.
Last year, I think we had about 80 on a Thursday. By the time Thursday rolled around, this year, reports are coming in over 100 expected.
It's going to be madness.
Yeah, well, when you have 30,000 people, it tends to, we
have one or two nerds
into real life. Yeah, there tends to be a lot of nerds in real life. Maybe all 100 just man like 30 accounts each or something, or 300 accounts.
Let's speaking of segueing into real life, which is not really a very good segue, but let's go ahead and actually talk about EVE Online. Let's get to the
Nullsec Power Hour. Go to the Nullsec Power Hour by clicking this wonderful button. Yay! And before we jump into that, we do have 3 shout-outs. I don't even know how to say this first name. Eric Kataris, Twitch Prime subscriber. Malchieda, Twitch Prime subscriber. And Rooker D, Twitch Prime subscriber. Yay! Thank you!
Oop. Thank you, guys.
Our guest today is K-Color. I brought him on today because he hasn't been back to the game in a long time. Since the last Casino War. I haven't seen him in the game since then. And so it's really awesome to see him back. And we're going to talk about some EVE Online things. And K-Color tends to have a great opinion on a lot of things. And first things first, we jump into CO2 has died. And in the wake of CO2 dying, we have a couple of minor wars going on around the space right now. One up in Syndicate and one in the south. And the first thing I'm going to do is laugh. Because what the fuck is going on in Syndicate? Like, for those that aren't keeping up, I will link you things. First things first. In PNU, or P-NU, we had a fight go down with NC Dot and the Initiative. The Initiative, trying to be solo heroes with their new Raven Doctrine, gets met by an enemy that realizes, oh, rocks can hit just as far. Let's bring rocks. Oh, you don't have any tank. Our rocks blow you up. So,
is this the thing about these Raven fights is that Initiative, like, they might have lost this one, but there have been several others.
They killed the tower.
Really good video where
they won the objective.
The Ravens, regardless of the objective, but like so what's happening in Syndicate is sort of fascinating. So essentially, NC Dot has moved and is doing what they can to take the towers back from Initiative, and Initiative is bleeding them. Space Violence from the Imperium has deployed, as has Snuffed out to go assist with that. And you're seeing some really interesting doctrines. And so instead of just going like, oh, hey, like, NC Dot is going to take stuff and we haven't counter deployed supers, so they're going to win eventually or whatever, Initiative is just like bleeding them every step of the way.
Yeah.
They're using these armor Ravens, which is fascinating because it's working.
Yeah, so if you haven't seen these before, there's a battle report for there, and the second battle report that went down this week, there's been like 5 or 6 major ones. They bleed these things. They lose Ravens on a pretty steady basis, but Ravens are cheap. Like, if you've got the funds just to throw at a problem, this is about as close as you can get to fighting capitals without having to deal with the problem. Ravens have a nice little thing that I don't think CCP intended to have happen with MJDs. For those that don't remember, Initiative developed Snatch Fleet. And in their learnings with Snatch Fleet, they realized that missiles, something that's not supposed to work when you warp off. Like, if you fire a missile and warp off, they just blow up in space. But if you MJD them around the grid, the missile still hits. So they're doing like a fire and forget. All these Ravens that are able to hit to like 250, 300k, way out of the range of enemy Titans, way out of the range of enemy fighters, they fire a shitload of missiles, and then their MJD stips start bouncing them around like crazy. They bounce them in, shoot like crazy, bounce them out. When you MJD someone, you don't lose lock. So the Ravens still have lock, the Ravens are still firing, and they have to rely on these MJD ships. What can go wrong with these fleets? They're paper thin. Twice now, they've got warped in on by Macarials and Smart Bomb to death. They have like 30,000 health. But if they don't die, which is why this only works in 0-0, because you can bubble yourself and then jump around with the bubble, is they can fuck some shit up. They almost killed Vince Draken's Titan. Because he bounced too far.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, McLeod is actually in it, and he's providing some context here in chat, which is essentially NC just wants to use their caps and their supers, but when Initiative uses the Ravens, they can't do that, right? The Ravens work just fine in that environment. So it forces NC to actually use subs, and NC blows ass at sub capitals. Like, essentially, when they're knocked off their high horse, they can't do shit. So
they had to call PL in, actually.
Of course, they had to call PL.
Yeah. So so the last fight that happened, they went to rocks. We're using Macarials. Macarials do kill Ravens, but they can't hit as far as the Ravens. So Ravens that are careful and sit back at range are fine. Rocks, on the other hand, can fight back. So PL brought out its old rock doctrine from the Fountain War, circa 2010. Brought that motherfucker out and came south and has been in syndicate with NC. So this is no longer NC showboating. We're going to take all our moons back on our own. It's now calling everyone, we need to win this because holy fuck, I hate Ravens.
Well, that's excellent. I mean, I think what we're seeing here, one of the things that Corns is pointing out is that it's interesting that NC is expending this sort of blood and treasure because the moons are getting scrambled so soon, which is one of the reasons why people were originally saying, why is Initiative even fighting for these things, because they're getting scrambled soon. But it seems like a pretty clear long game intention to just bleed NC and humiliate them at every opportunity. It's less about the actual objective as it is making sure that NC doesn't get to play the game the way that they want to.
And K-Color, when you look at this, what do you see? Like, what do you think? Do you think it's good for Initiative just be throwing shit at this and making them hate their lives as they get bogged down in this like trench warfare with Ravens?
It's cheap enough for it to like not really care if they lose them. It's really easy to disengage, especially with that fleet where they just MJD away and leave if they need to. There's really no downside to using Ravens. The only way they would have been able to fight before was if they were willing to drop caps, and if they're not going to escalate, there's really no point.
There's a lot of interesting vacuums being created around the Syndicate Theater, so I'm gonna segue us a little bit off of. I don't want to say too much about this because this is just a rumor right now, but part of the shakeup of this upcoming moon patch is a lot of alliances are reshuffling. So not just like CO2 getting obliterated and people moving to Impasse and things like that, but rumor has it that the Culture, who has lived in J5A and Fountain for more than a year now, is uprooting, and they've made no real secret about this with their members that they're up and going someplace else, and they are just sort of leaving Fountain, which is going to, if that happens, is going to create a power vacuum, which will likely have some impact, we don't know what, on any of the bordering regions, depending upon who ends up with Fountain territory.
With that comment, I'll be the first to say the shock of this, because that is huge if it does go down. Like, having TC where TC is, they're like the bootlickers of all of the North, right? They come when they're called, they do what they're told. They're in that place since before the Casino War even happened, because we consolidated, and PL and NC were like, look, we don't want this motherfucker, but we need someone that we are permanently not blue with, to live there. So they installed them and said, okay, you guys hold this. And at their peak, they were doing 250-man fleets. Like, they were big. So they had a way to hold it from all these little, like, riffraff things and fountain and shit. And so it created this nice little border for them. And now with us in Delve, it was even bigger border because now you have someone who can control that half a fountain and keep us out of fucking with Cloud Rain, fucking with Syndicate. You know what I mean? So it's huge.
I think it's one of the things that's really weird. And this is more like a political thing than a strategic thing. But, you know, there was... so the person who many of us thought was the leader of the culture, like this came up in a Reddit thread a couple months ago. Right. Apparently the actual leader of the culture is some guy named Harvey Skywalker, something or other.
Something you never even hear of. Right.
But we all thought it was Ragnar Bile, and there was this group of FCs from Black Legion, and Ragnar was like the big EUTZ FC from Black Legion. When Black Legion disintegrated, there's this diaspora of people who were in Black Legion, and a lot of them ended up in Pandemic Legion now. So like there's this whole cadre of former Black Legion guys, and you also saw some like the super toxic adversity dudes like Lex Arson. Were sort of born from this class of FCs in Black Legion. And so where I'm going with this is it's really weird how mature and polite and hard to be hateful about Ragnar Bile is, right? He's from the same class of like super, super toxic Black Legion FCs. And you see these dudes in PL and in other areas that have the Black Legion pedigree, and they're just like some of the most toxic players.
Infamous is one of the most notorious or infamous ones from that era because he does really shady shit. Like, no one really wants to work with that guy. Like, you could talk to Rancor, and Rancor, he's known for having his Rolodex, right? But
he's got his bat phone.
Yeah,
but like, what's weird is it's hard to hate the guy, and that's the sort of weird. He's like sort of like a Teflon like leader. Like he's, you know, I've spoken to him a few times over text, and I don't know. It just seems really weird that in an environment where there are so many people who are hostile to the Imperium, like these guys are our enemies. That Ragnar, coming from a Black Legion pedigree, managed to not be like any of these other idiots.
Someone told me this a long time ago, and I think it applies here, is that all of the really toxic people, and this might be a bad thing to say about PL, but I don't give a fuck, all the toxic people in the game that nobody really wants to deal with end up joining PL. Like, they're good at the game, and then they go to PL. Then you have people like Rancor, who's not really toxic to those around him, and they forge their own little thing in a corner, right? Yeah. And that's the thing with him, because again, like you just said, I didn't know who the fuck their CEO was. I always thought it was Rancor. And every time, and like anything that would go down, like if Rancor wasn't around, you didn't hear about TC. So it was like, oh, he must be the CEO. And then you find out all these years later.
We thought, like, no joke, like we thought, like in the Gunstorm Directorate for years, we thought that he was the leader of the culture, and then it turned out that there's some other guy who was officially the leader, but nobody knew or cared about. So that's a thing.
By the way, Jay McLean, I didn't mean you. I meant toxic, like FC level people, like people I deal with. Not a lot of people deal with the people I deal with.
Well, that is sort of a thing, like you saw with you know, with Rocket X's crew, who ended up like sort of separating from the mainline PL. At the Las Vegas, actually, it was sort of interesting seeing this cultural shift from that crew of like Black Legion. Sort of script kiddie wannabe tryhards who really weren't like the kind of you know, sort of the Grath era of PL folks.
Yeah,
sort of, like, culturally it didn't fit.
It's
that's why we ended up hanging out with fucking Lady Scarlet and NC Dot, because like we're sitting here and like
yeah,
the Goonstorm. Cool. Well, yeah, but like the Goonstorm people at the CCP party, this is either last year or the year before, were like looking around, and like, you know, we ended up having more in common with like the old school NC Dot dudes than the sort of like, you know, try hard new PL guys. Yeah, it's just this weird intergenerational shift.
I mean, K-Color, you've dealt with the metagame probably as much as I have in the recent years. What do you think about, as far as like, is it shocking that Rancor is such a chill dude compared to all his old buddies, as it were?
Well, I think we have to kind of correct you. His name is Ragnar.
Oh,
Ragnar.
He does this to me all the time. I hate this. Go ahead.
I don't think I've actually dealt with him on a personal level. The fact that he's not really spewing hatred everywhere is always It's always interesting. I I do mock PL a lot. I do have the Twitter account CCPL, so I've been using that. I've been I guess I've been memeing on them a lot on Twitter. So I don't think that I don't think I'm probably the best person to ask in regards to what my opinion on PL compared to other people are.
Well, Corns has a good one. He says that, would you say that there are no less than 12 chill bros in PL?
Oh my god.
There's probably no more than 12.
All right.
So moving on.
Let's talk about Impasse. I think.
We got some interesting news out of Impasse. So in the wake of CO2's death, it's kind of like Rome falling. Everyone just kind of gobbles shit up. They don't know where to go.
Shitty backstabbing Rome.
Yeah, I like to look at it this way. It's like Rome fell into the Dark Ages, and now we're looking at that in the South. So, and what ends up happening immediately is Impasse, as K-Car likes to correct me, and others. It's chunked up. It's divided into thirds. Brave will keep a third. Requiem Eternal will keep a third. And Drone Walkers will keep a third. So pretty much all the catch entities are getting this. Test is keeping one system, I believe, for a Jump Bridge hub, but it is not 68 FT. That has been transferred to Brave. For last week's chat with Aerith, we talked about how that was a huge system to hold on to. You hold that, you own the rest of it, and now it's in Brave hands. But, and this is coming out of Brave leadership this week, Brave will not move to Impasse. They are going to stay in catch. And for those that don't know, a group like Brave, that's huge, because that leaves them open to be farmed. Like, why would they want to just live in a place where PL is going to farm them endlessly?
Well, Brave isn't exactly known for... Well, there's a couple reasons that I could speculate here. I actually don't know, because, back in the day, in the Licton era of Brave leadership, they were absolutely convinced that Gunnsform spent all day, every day, infiltrating and giving a flying fuck about Brave, which we don't. But... it's a curious choice just hearing about this, because if they have 68 FT and they've got the the best territory, the primo territory in Impasse, then their line members are going to kind of make that choice for them, right? It's really hard to do a split deployment. So if Impasse is safe, it's valuable, it's a better territory than GE TAC 8 for them, trying to put 2 feet in 2 different regions is something that will be challenging. You see, Drone Walkers, of course, went to Impasse. They abandoned the Fort Taco 7 area demilitarized zone that exists between Gunnsform and Test. And you also see sort of a resurgent, a new Stainwagon entity has sort of reformed. It's like old Stainwagon Corps and has been actively reinforcing. And
it fat recently.
Yeah, it basically looks like what we're seeing here is this is the risk of FozzieSob is overstretching, right? So a lot of because Catch's space kind of blows ass. Everybody knows this. So it's like an upgrade for a lot of the people that were living in Catch to move to Impasse, and and good.
Huge upgrade.
Huge upgrade. But at this point, it was clearly a time for Stainwagon to do what Stainwagon always does, which is to reform under a new name and go right back at their territory, because they don't really care about Catch. They want to have that stuff, but they want to have the easy pathway in and out of Stain.
Right.
So especially if Brave is, maybe this is probably one of the reasons why Brave is trying to do a split capital scenario, because presumably the intention will be to try to live in Impasse but fight new Stainwagon.
They're doing the opposite.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they're going to live in GE. That's their capital. They are not moving. It's the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard. And I've heard a lot of dumb things in 10 years. They are not... The GE is going to remain their capital, and everything else is just farmland. But for someone who knows a lot about Impasse, it is one of the safest regions, the safest region in all of EVE. You cannot even Blopstrop into there from NPC space, which Blopstrops has huge range. The only way you can fuck with it is to go down 2 pipes that can be easily scouted 20 jumps ahead of time. Rorquals even have enough time to get safe. Wormholes are nigh impossible to find. We had an entire SIG recently trying to find wormholes. They found 2 in a week span. Wormholes are very hard to find if you don't have those little mods installed, and who the fuck is going to install them in Impasse, right? So... even like the big hole roller groups don't go there very often because it's hard to get wormholes there. So it's one of the most safest fucking places to live, and you'd think someone like Brave would be smart enough to go, hey, we've been PL Farm Toys for years. Finally, we have a place we can go to. Oh, fuck, we'll just stay here. Like, what
there's
fuck?
Actually... There's an even less charitable explanation that I just thought of, and I would call this an insulting conspiracy theory if it wasn't recently proven. I mean, let's not forget that just a couple weeks ago, Braves, one of their highest level directors was outed as being a PL spy. So maybe one of the PL always likes to farm Brave and Test and all these other guys. So maybe what's going on is like the reason why they're not moving hard into 68 FT where they cannot be farmed easily because the geography is there, is that they're, instead of Goons Farm Directorate has infiltrated Braves Director because we don't give a flying fuck. There's recent evidence of high-level Brave people being PL plans, and so maybe that's where this completely asinine plan of ignoring the shelter, because Brave could move heavy into Impasse, hunker down, make shitloads of ISK, and develop a real capital fleet and some real defenses, as opposed to this half-ass, wishy-washy, let's stay in a place where PL can easily farm us.
Even better, too, is that you're closer to your ally, which is Test. Like, Test is one of their only allies. And being in Impasse puts Test a jump bridge away. Being in Catch is 2-3 jumps and a nightmare. You get your shit tackled. Like, we see Brave recently start to get into the super game with 3 or 4 or 5 supers on a Fortizar. I mean, Brave could drop a Keep Star in Impasse and probably get away with it. They ain't gonna do that in Catch. Like, that motherfucker will die, you know?
Yeah,
I mean, have to drop a Keep Star. They
have a Keep Star.
Well, no, they have one. They're trying to crowdsource one. This was also put this week. They are trying to crowdsource a Keep Star because they can't afford to get their own right now.
Yeah, I mean, the sad thing about this is, like, newbie organization, when I'm in a situation where I'm able to say, Gobbins runs a better shop at Pandemic Horde than what's happening at Brave, like, that's sad. You got to, it's really hard for me to say nice things about Pandemic Horde. But it's just a waste. I mean, the smart thing to do is to hunker down in Impasse, to make shitloads of ISK, to develop a capital fleet, to learn how to defend, develop a homeland defense network, kind of like what we do in Delve, and get the skills. But it's a wasted opportunity. Somebody in chat here, Oaken Ralph, is pointing out that he's guessing that it's an emotional decision because losing that during their 18th coup was traumatic or whatever.
I mean, it's possible. Cagali is the guy running it, and he was the survivor of all those coups and problems. So, I mean, K-Color, why would they stay in Catch to be farmed by PL? Like, what gain is that? What positive is that?
Well, I can understand the hesitation to not want to move into the Keep Star that was just recently, like, flipped by one entity that I will not name.
Certainly not us.
Definitely not us. Nope, it definitely wasn't payback for trying to kill my supers.
Oh, that's right! K-Color was the guy that saved our super fleet. Here he is, boys. The man.
K-Color saved a lot of our super fleet.
He was that guy during the
casino war.
The flip.
Yeah, so let me brag on K-Color here for a second. So during the fatal battle of Imtaco, where Gigex and Doenchi and his higher-ups betrayed the Imperium, after we spent 9 hours in non-stop grinding attrition combat to try to save the Imtaco iHub. On that fateful day, there was a trap that was planned to try to catch the Imperium superfleet. There was bait there, and of course PL and our enemies and Gigex and all that crew denied it vociferously that there was any trap there, and it was just all a Goonie tinfoil conspiracy theory. But what had happened was we were moving our supers, and K-Color ended up being in charge of this. K-Color, do you want to tell the rest of the story, because it's your thing?
I still go with the fact that I was just lucky. I mean, like you guys are saying, there was some kind of trap set up, but I had no idea. No one from CO2 ever offered me a Sino, so either they're extremely incompetent or they just Forgot.
Yeah, so
they had Hictors and Dictors logged off and ready in a route that we were expected to take to move our stuff. And what ended up happening was K-Killer was in charge of our fleet, and I think, if I remember correctly, like you just got frustrated with the delays and you just started moving.
It gets even better. Like CO2 they didn't prepare sinos to like say, hey, K-Color, we got your sinos ready. While the rest at that time, it was such a havocal mess. Recon was so overloaded, they didn't have time to get sinos set up. Like, they were just dealing with M-O. It was a fucking nightmare, right? And CO2 didn't think far enough ahead. They weren't intelligent enough to think, oh, wait, if we just light the sino ourselves, they trust us, we're allies, we can fuck them. So K-Color just did it himself and goes, okay, I'm just going to go my way, and end up saving our super fleet because of it, because he went a completely different way than they had planned.
Yeah, and it turned out, like, we were watching the amount of dreads, and I remember being confused, because I'm sitting here, like, our recon guys, like, we're watching, the hostiles had this huge dread and super fleet ready that they were holding in reserve, and it didn't make sense until suddenly we realized what was up, is that it was being held in reserve and not used to actually win MTAC-0, because later we found out that CO2 ended a flip, and then the idea was that they would, jump in and deal with that. So K-Color did save our super fleet, unfortunately, after K-Killer saved our super fleet, of course, and it still remains to this day trapped in 93 PI, so the Imperium is still without any supers or titans. It is tragic. Maybe K-Killer, now that you're back, because you saved us the first time, maybe K-Killer, now that you have returned, you can maybe get our supers out of 93 PI. I'd really appreciate it if you get a chance.
Yeah. I'll go right down through Syndicate. I think that's probably the best.
Yeah, that's the route to take right there. So moving on, in the process of CO2 dying, I believe one of the CO2 corps that was being hit and harassed, or I'm not even sure who owned it previously, they transferred a Satio to Requiem Eternal. I believe it was sold, and it was blown up. And when it was blown up, a lot of things died, one of which being a Hell. We learned with this Satio that when a Hell is completed in a Satio and the Satio dies, the Hell can drop. Slight problem, though, nobody can board it. And you can't scoop it into a freighter because it's a fucking Hell. So they had to blow up the wreck, and it died.
So nobody could board it because they didn't have a Hell pilot?
No, nobody could board it because the game would not allow you to take it out of the can to board it from space.
A Hell in a can.
Yeah, so when the Satio dies, everything from inside the Satio either drops or dies.
Or is in a can, and you can't put a Hell in a freighter.
Right, and the Hell can't fit into a freighter, so a dropped Hell, here's the link to the kill board, by the way, a dropped Hell could not be boarded, scooped, or taken, so it had to be killed. So that was a big deal. And also based on the build, as you can see here by the amount of stuff inside it, a Titan or 2, maybe even 3, were definitely in build 100%. And so... Oh, because it's not assembled. Right, you can't assemble it from a can. So, yeah, it was a big oversight on CCP part. I think they even mentioned that they're looking at how they're going to fix it. You're leading out this group.
Thank you, Tuzzy, for bringing in the...
Yeah, there you go.
The fact that it was unassembled, and that's why it couldn't be dealt with in space.
Right, and you couldn't scoop it.
You can't assemble something when it's in a can in space.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that where I was going. Thanks, Tuzzy, for clarifying. I lost my train of thought for a minute there. And then that happened. That was huge. Like, apparently they tried to sell it off or, like, give it to someone else with the hope that nobody would continue to shoot the final timer. But it still died. It blew up. Next, we have a big fight, and by big, this is big news because considering what's going on in Syndicate right now, this is surprising. So you have Shadow Cartel working with Triumvirate. Now we know recently Triumvirate reset everyone. They even reset their coalition. Like that's over. It's Tri on their own. They've got Shadow Cartel working for them. Tri outpaid the FCON and getting Shadow Cartel to help. And now PL Capitals are involved, and in a recent fight with the DRF, PL, Tri, and Shadow Cartel threw their dicks on a table. They threw down a whole shitload of dreads and carriers on this Fortizar in the hopes that the enemy fleet, being PL, or Test, DRF, and FCOM, would drop in. Apparently, for like about 2 hours, the hype of, hey, shit's about to go down, get ready, was occurring, and then nobody showed up. For those looking at this battle report, there was maybe 30, 40 subcaps. Where you saw a big deal was the fact that out of the 288, it was pretty much all dreads and carriers, which is a pretty big dick to put on the table in the middle of Teniferous.
You have to keep mentioning the words "totally not blue."
Yeah,
definitely not blue.
So I love that. I forget who it came from. It was somebody who was very smart and not me. It might have been. Fuck, was it Querns? Anyway, somebody came up with the idea of blue trolls.
Yeah, Querns did. Querns did. Yeah.
Was, as usual, another witticism from Querns. But yeah, it's they're blue troll now, and so we've got, instead of just having to explain using a lot of words, people who lie about being blue when they're neutral, but they always work together, so they're actually functionally blue, and they're just hypocrites. Now we can just call them what they are. Blue trolls.
Yeah, so this is why the reason I say this is a big deal is DRF is known for buying off PL. PL still has its rental empire in the middle of DRF space. So the fact that you have PL throwing dicks on the table going, my dick's bigger than yours, ha ha ha, right in the face of where DRF is staging and killing this Fortizar, that's a pretty big deal. Nothing again came of it. There was a lot of shit talking in a private channel of PL guys going, what the fuck, you guys hyped this shit up, where are you? So it's kind of a blue ball scenario from Test. So that's been going on, and then even more.
You should point out the fact that Manfred Sidious is actually FCing for DRF.
Oh yeah, this is big news. So I don't know if you guys have heard this yet, and I wasn't in my notes. Thanks, K-Color. But we found recently, K-Color and I, or K-Color pointed out, and I did some research, that William Crane, you remember that name from the old Pandemic Horde.
Yep.
And Manny, from PL fame, Manny Eve, have made this new alliance and or corporation in the DRF, staging out of DRF space to PvP in. And all of these names that in the research I was finding, from all these like lesser known but still big name FCs from the Casino War, are all in this group now, and no longer in PL or P-Horde or that group.
Well, I'm sure that they're no longer in PL. What is the name of this group, Boat?
Let me get you the link. Let me find it while K-Color points it out.
That was like Hooligans or something from Explicit Alliance.
Yeah, Explicit Alliance Hooligans. That's the one.
It's essentially like an Alliance tournament team, like a B team for an Alliance tournament that's totally not PL, but it's just set up for mercenary FC things. I mean, I think that's a pretty good idea on their part.
Yeah, so it's an interesting thing because we haven't heard Manny. Yeah, the Corpus Havoc. There we go. Manny's Corpus Havoc. So, and the other one's called Hooligans. But we haven't seen Manny since the Casino War. He just kind of disappeared off the face of the earth. And this is the first time we're starting to see him FC again and do ops. And
I just thought it would be funny that it might have been him FCing against PL at one point in that fight if they actually...
Yeah, because they do a lot of fleets with the DRF, like full DRF fleets. So that's interesting.
Quarren suggests that it could be a killboard partition. I think that we should start actually on the meta show, even though he'll never join us on voice comms. We should essentially say that like special text guests will be Quarren's, because he's usually right about things.
It's like Tim Rizzle too. It's the same thing.
In many ways, it probably is a killboard partition. So one of the things that the elite PvP entities in EVE do is they are obsessed. And when I say this, I don't mean just PL. Like this is pretty common for people who have very killboard-oriented alliances. Is they will partition high-risk attempts at things like that might go wrong or whatever that might taint their kill board. A lot of elite PvP entities keep their PvE alts completely separate, just to not ruin the purity of a kill board with losses. Well, so Corns' theory here is that this Hooligans idea is essentially a kill board partition to make sure that PL's beautiful kill board isn't ruined by whatever they do.
Here's an interesting piece of information about this. Normally, your elite PvP types, from my memory, tend to be like they put their main characters in like PL, but then they use their alts and they kind of separate it. But these are their mains. This is Eve Manny, like Manny, whatever his name is, Pac Pital or whatever. Pake. That's his main. Then you have William Crane's main. So you have like these are like striking it out, as it were. You can see the alliance history of this corp. It's been known to get around. It's been a nullity test. It was major against all authorities. That's where it became kind of famous. In those days, it was
I think it was most recently famous for being the corp that was on Manny's Titan that we killed when we caught a spy, but he totally has nothing to do with that and totally wasn't his spy Titan.
And then final bit of war news here before we jump into some comedy. In our last 5 minutes, wow. This Leviathan died. He bridged a fleet then went AFK without closing the client and got bumped off an Astra House by his allies, PL, because Lumpy has been allies with PL for years now. They go, sorry guys, we just had to kill it, and bumped off the Astra House, and then dropped Supers and Titans and Dreads and everything and blew the thing up.
I got a question here from United Potatoes, which is, and I'm going to do a little spiel on this. Guys have never played EVE. Is there any reason to start an account these days, or is the new player base too small now, or the player base in general? We probably have a lot of interest in EVE because of Aerith and Anominate's amazing work with the CO2 disband. And Boat, while I'm running my mouth here, could you link the PC Gamer article?
Yeah, I'm about to link it right now, actually. Yep.
So yeah, Stephen Messner just wrote a long expose on it that just hit a couple hours ago. So there are a few entities in EVE that are very focused on new players. I would highly recommend checking out Karma Fleet. That is in Goonswarm Federation and is probably one of the best, I'm just going to go ahead and say is pretty much the best newbie-focused entity in this day and age. They have a lot of mentors, a whole lot of programs devoted to getting new players start up and the fun stuff. The challenge for anybody who's new or who might watch the recording of this that is interested in EVE about over the CO2 thing that happened is it does have a very high learning curve and a terrible tutorial. And even if you make it through the tutorial, very rapidly you'll be dumped in high sec, which is boring and confusing, and you won't be able to get to participate in the cool stuff. Entities like Karma Fleet or Brave Newbies or Pandemic Horde are newbie-focused entities in nullsec, which is where the fun stuff happens, that will leapfrog you past all the shitty stuff. So you actually get a chance to experience real EVE very rapidly. If you read about the game and then you try it with the tutorial the normal way and you don't make friends, you'll find yourself going, wow, I keep reading about this EVE Online. What I read about is nothing like the horrible experience I'm having when I tried to play it. And so that's why it's just so critical to look into joining a group like Karma Fleet. And I'm actually...
Or even ASCII's, I would say they're second best when it comes to newbies. They do a really good job with their newbies also. Theta talks about ASCII.
Is karmafleet.org like their real? Is that their real website, or is that a scam website?
Not sure. I would like their recruiters are pretty much, they can't scam. Like their recruiters can't do recruitment scamming. So if you get a hold of a real recruiter and you join Karma Fleet, you can't get fucked. The same with ASCII. So they treat their recruiters kind of like Diplos in that regard. But another thing too is I highly recommend, after playing this game for a very long time, find something you enjoy about the game, because that'll be what keeps you playing it, even in the times you want to say, okay, this game's boring, I want to leave. You'll go back to that one little niche thing that you really enjoy out of like the millions of things you can do. The game's too big to do everything. I've been playing this for, 10, 11 years, and I still haven't done everything. So just find that one little thing you enjoy. For me, it's flying around in an interceptor. And that doesn't require much skills. You could do a Rifter as an alpha character and never have to pay for the game. So,
people are also saying
there it is,
nice
right there, recruit.karmafleet.org.
So karmafleet.org is the correct one.
No, recruit.karmafleet.org.
Right. I am taking a look at that.
Oh.
It's the first result that pops up here,
right.
So that's good.
Yeah, and then
check it out.
We're low on time here. Some big news. Volt, for those that don't remember who Volt is, they used to be CVA. They joined Aquarius recently. They are mothballing their alliance, i.e. disbanding. Core Blood Brothers made a Facebook post, which I'm not going to link the Facebook post because I don't link people's Facebooks, but I will link the Reddit thread. They are disbanding as of today, so they are going to take a little break. And on top of that,
I think a lot of them are folding into the Imperium.
Yeah, they're going other places. Yeah. Then finally, CCP made an official, not official statement, and when I say official, not official, is CCP Falcon is not an official, as far as this is law goes. I don't think Falcon is the law guy, but he is a guy who, when he says something, is probably going to happen. He made an announcement about GigX saying, look, GigX and Matani and other bands are non-comparable because that was 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, and we've changed the way we do things. And GigX is per band, and we're not going to discuss any of that further. So that was kind of like a cap on the drama that came from CO2 of trying to get him unbanned. You haven't heard about it since. So
I want to have 1 minute on this. So
one
of the things that's come out in the sort of, we've discussed this for the last couple meta shows, and I think when I talked about it last week, I actually think I went into a fair amount of detail about what happened with the shitty things that I did at FanFest in 2012, and how it sort of relates to what we're dealing with now. And so check that recording out if you're interested in hearing what I had to say. I don't want to cover that lost ground.
TLDR.
Yeah. But also, one of the things that has come out about the circumstances of GigX's ban that was sort of glossed over by a lot of the people who were fighting to get GigX unbanned to begin with, is he had a number of warnings on his account for exactly this behavior, and he had been temp banned in the past. So one of the things about in my situation, I'd never been banned for anything, and I never misbehaved in any way or violated the EULA whatsoever. GigX had, it appears, from what has come out since then, a huge rap sheet, including temp bans and repeated warnings to not threaten people in real life. This was a thing that GigX has done again and again and again and again and again. So it is not the kind of scenario where GigX did this, it was his first time, whatever. This is a situation where you have a repeat offender who has repeatedly done exactly this. And so I think it's people on the CO2 side of the aisle have been really trying to ignore the fact that the guy had a rap sheet a mile long for doing exactly this.
It's kind of like long-term prison offenders. Eventually, you're going to get life after you commit so many felonies, right? They'll give you a felony, you get a year. You get a felony, you get 6 months. Oh, you've hit your 5th felony in a row? Okay, now you have life. Right, and that's what I think happened with GigX. He was warned more than enough to, hey, continue doing this, you're gone. And, well, he's gone. So that's a cool little capstone. Like someone said in chat, it's good that they finally had said, look, this is final, don't talk about it. And people have stopped. And finally, before we call it a day, because we are out of time, up next, of course, is Gommel Knox. I have a link for you of one of the most hilarious things I've seen the last couple of weeks. A guy lost 11 mining ships and a Rorqual. Now, this might not seem like a lot until you look at the battle report. Every single character had 6 billion ISK implants. So all of his 11 alts had 6 billion ISK implants.
Wow!
All of them were using the most expensive mining implants. Now, return on investment, in a week or two, this guy probably made all of this money. But when you look at it from someone who doesn't really mine, he could have probably done this all for like 5 billion.
That is the mother of all Hulkageddon kills, right there.
That one
somewhere out there on the internet, Helicity Bosun just like perked up and got all excited because as an old school Hulkageddon guy like that is Dread Pirate Firebird is also. I used to, when we would be sponsoring the Hulkageddons, I love to suicide gank me some Hulks, and that is...
Here we go.
That
so
right there is
even
just
better.
Beauty.
All those implants do is increase the range at which you mine, not even the yield. So the speed at which he's able to make this money back is not even that big. It's not. Yeah. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. So this guy, I mean, he probably sat in his little corner of space and thought, "I'll never be touched. I'm in the middle of nowhere." Which the way the drones work, and K-Color is very adamant about this. Is that so? Yeah, we're out of time. Fuck. I'm
stunned. That is such a good kill there.
Yeah, and so normally those are no big deals, but that made me laugh.
Yeah, mad props to the guys who ganked that guy.
That's
making the world a better place, one dead mining barge at a time.
Yeah. So
all right, so that's it. Let's go to Gommel Knox is next.
Right.
And
I have one more little thing though. I want to tell everyone. I talked about this very briefly yesterday. I've been keeping my mind off things by playing video games and stuff. But you may not see a boat show all next week. It's very possible. I have some family stuff going on. My grandfather's in the hospital. So it's possible that if you don't see me Monday with no warning whatsoever, that is why, and I'll be gone.
Yeah, we hope your family, we hope your grandfather all the best.
So yeah, I don't know yet. I'll find out probably Sunday night.
Prayers
really
and
late,
good vibes to Boat's family.
Okay, guys, that's it.
Awesome.
We out of here.
Hopefully we'll see you next week.
Yep, see you guys. Thanks, K-Color. Welcome back.
You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the meta. The meta controls everything. The meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching The Meta Show.